Breaking: GOP candidate just collapsed on stage, watch what opponent immediately did. It seems that politics can be a particularly dangerous game these days for those who are fighting for the right. It puts them on the wrong side of those obsessed with control, who will stop at nothing to get it. Conservatives are under constant attack for their morals and opinions and are being forced to defend them every which way they turn. It's more than just an opinion, it's to ensure that our country remains true to the Constitution in which America was built upon that made it the greatest nation in the world. Sadly, sometimes that fight can come at a cost, as one Republican candidate just realized during his fight to turn his blue state red before the upcoming 2020 election. Connecticut is one of the only true blue states in the nation, meaning that they have a Democratic governor and totally Democratic congressional delegation. Republican Mayor Mark Boughton had hoped to change all that, fighting against tall odds as a GOP gubernatorial candidate. In a recent debate against his opponent fighting for the same position, Boughton suddenly collapsed on stage. What the man running against him immediately did, speaks volumes. Boughton had no idea who he was running against until his debate nearly turned fatal and he was down on the stage in a life-and-death situation in Danbury, Connecticut. The Daily Caller reports. Republican Mayor Mark Boughton was reportedly feeling sick during the candidate meet and greet and fell to the ground. Republican opponent and physician Prasad Srinivasan jumped on the scene and began performing CPR on Boughton, the Hartford Courant reported. Boughton was reportedly conscious when taken to University of Connecticut Health Center. "I just heard somebody yelling for a doctor," former U.S. Comptroller General and gubernatorial Republican candidate Dave Walker told the Hartford Courant. "He did have to have CPR. What's incredible to note is what his Republican counterpart did as an instinctive and compassionate response to his situation. Srinivasan could have kept his hands off his opponent as a matter of liability in case any if his efforts failed. This is often a passive approach liberals take, using this and or other fabricated factors as an excuse to their inability to be selfless. As a blessing to Boughton, Srinivasan not only happens to be a skilled physician, but he's a genuine person who takes his Hippocratic oath seriously. It didn't matter to Srinivasan that this was the man who stood in his way of becoming governor. He saw him as a fellow human and one who he could help and didn't hesitate to do so. CPR is also a very personal emergency procedure since it requires mouth-to-mouth contact. It bursts personal bubbles and safe spaces, which Srinivasan was rightfully not concerned with since his opponent's life depended on it. He could have waited for EMTs to arrive to administer this life-saving support, but time was of the essence and he proved himself a hero and a man of incredible character. Boughton was transported to the hospital where he still remains today. Conservative Daily Post adds. The noble act worked and Boughton was said to have been conscious when he was carted off to University of Connecticut Health Center, a nearby hospital. As the political world gets more uncaring, more divided, and far more heartless than in almost any time in America's history, it is quite refreshing to see a little bit of kindness and concern shown. At the end of the day, thankfully, this is America, not Russia. After what everyone has seen there, had this happened in Russia, no opponent would be conducting CPR, most likely. Rather, they would be hoping that no one could find the nerve agent that caused it. The Caller's article noted that Boughton had a brain surgery just last to remove a benign, non-cancerous, tumor located behind his ear. This is suspected to have played a part in his on-stage collapse, although a connection still remains unclear. What is clear is that Connecticut has two incredible candidates they could have running their state, which would be a win for citizens who could greatly benefit from this kind of leadership. This terrifying and potentially tragic situation was of course not planned, but hopefully, it provides some valuable insight into the character of a man who would do this for his opponent. This could play an exceptionally important role in the future of the state, should citizens be willing to acknowledge it for what it is and elect one of these Republicans who are up for governor.